Over the last 10 years, 3 countries have quietly shut down services that once seemed permanent. In 2017, Australia shut down Radio Australia on Shortwave. This week, Canada switched off CHU, one of the world's oldest time signal stations. And today, BBC Longwave reaches the end of the line. 3 countries, 3 different services, 3 different reasons. Yet, all arriving at exactly the same conclusion. We don't need this anymore. But here's what I find interesting. Not everybody agrees. The United States still maintains the WWV and WWVH time signals. New Zealand still broadcasts across the Pacific on shortwave. The BBC still uses shortwave internationally, and China still maintains the BPM time signal broadcasts. So if these technologies are absolutely obsolete, why are some countries still investing in them in the year 2026, right now? You see, I don't think this story is really about radio. I think it's about how governments decide what is worth keeping. So let's take Radio Australia as an example. For decades, it carried Australian programming throughout the Pacific and beyond. Long before the internet, it allowed Australia to communicate directly across enormous distances. Then, in 2017, the transmitters were turned off. The audience had moved elsewhere, apparently. The internet had replaced it. The service was no longer considered necessary. CHU tells a similar story. Most people have never heard of it today, and that's because it wasn't built to entertain anyone. Its job was to simply transmit Canada's official time, hour after hour, day after day, for generations, until this week. And then there's BBC Longwave, a service whose roots stretch back almost a century. For many listeners, it wasn't simply a transmitter, it was part of daily life. Something that had always been there until now. And every one of those closures makes sense, at least on paper. We have the internet, we have GPS, we have mobile networks, we have newer technology. The question isn't whether those systems work, because clearly they do. The question is whether we're looking at this the right way. Because some things are easy to measure. Listener numbers, operating costs, maintenance budgets. But other things are much harder. Resilience, redundancy, independence, capability. And those things only become visible when something goes wrong. A single shortwave transmitter can cover enormous distances. A national time signal station distributes an official standard independently. International broadcasting allows a nation to communicate directly beyond its borders. Are they primary systems today? No, of course not. But perhaps that's the wrong test. Fire extinguishers aren't used every day. Backup generators aren't used every day. Lifeboats aren't used every day. But we keep them because resilience matters. And resilience often looks expensive right up until the moment it's needed. Personally, I think every nation should maintain 3 capabilities. A domestic shortwave broadcasting service, an international shortwave broadcasting service, and a national time signal service. Not because they would replace modern technology, they wouldn't, but because what happens when the primary system fails? What happens during a natural disaster, a major cyber attack, or something much worse? Suddenly, what looked like an unnecessary expense starts looking very cheap. Now you may disagree, you may think these services serve their purpose, and it's time to move on. That's a reasonable position. But that's exactly why I think this discussion matters. Because what we're really debating isn't radio. What we're debating is how societies balance efficiency against resilience. For most of the 20th century, governments built systems they expected to last for generations. Today, we increasingly build systems designed to be replaced. Neither approach is entirely right, neither is entirely wrong. But every time one of these old transmitters falls silent, we're reminded that permanence was never guaranteed. Today, another signal disappears. Most people won't notice, most people won't care. But I think it leaves us with an important question. In a world increasingly obsessed with efficiency, what are we shutting down today the future generations will wish we'd kept? I'm VK3 USA. This is Real Ham Radio.